Anger, shock, and even some booze inside a Vancouver courtroom this afternoon. It happened after a judge found two Richmond brothers, Ravinder and Parminder Bassi, not guilty in a violent gay bashing. As CTV's Scott Roberts reports, some compelling evidence and even eyewitness testimony wasn't enough to convince the judge.
Are you satisfied with the verdict today?
Two Richmond brothers emerged from court acquitted in a brutal assault case. Neither testified during the trial. Their silence continued today.
Why did you choose not to testify?
Both Ravinder and Parminder Bassi were found not guilty 2.5 years after an attack on a gay Vancouver couple. David Holtzman and his partner Peter Regier suffering serious injuries after an assault outside their downtown condo, victims of a series of punches and homophobic slurs. Their friends were stunned by the ruling.
Just absolute shock, and just really disappointed. I mean, what more does it take to identify? You have 6 people, 6 witnesses.
But the judge said neither attacker could be positively identified, even though a number of witnesses came forward after police released these images of the assailants fleeing the scene. Some identified them as the Bassi brothers, but none were credible enough to warrant conviction. The judge insisting it is very difficult to see any features of their faces in the photos. The judge also slammed the testimony of one of the victims, David Holtzman, seen here on the left, who died of an unrelated heart attack in April, calling it exaggerated, not credible, and at times preposterous, insisting neither victim could identify the attackers either.
I'm just thinking of my deceased friend. The last 2 years of his life, he went through so much trauma over this.
I'm very disappointed, yes, but at the end you have to respect decisions of the court.
A decision that leaves these brothers free men and the other victim in the case without words. Scott Roberts, CTV News, Vancouver.
A not guilty verdict this afternoon on a high-profile assault case that the victim said was a case of gay bashing. A judge found the evidence placing brothers Parminder and Ravinder Bassi at the scene of the crime to be unreliable. Mira Baines was there as the brothers walked out of court, and as friends of the victims expressed their disappointment.
Flanked by family members and supporters, brothers Parminder and Ravinder Bassi left the courthouse quickly after the not guilty verdict. They refused to speak to reporters. But friends of the victims, Peter Regier and David Holtzman, were shocked by the verdict.
There was so much evidence. These amazing people who didn't know my friends came forward, and the police did.
During the trial, the brothers from Richmond had been identified as the 2 men in this surveillance video. They were accused of assault causing bodily harm in a vicious attack on Regier and Holtzman. The attack is remembered in part for taking place on the night of a UFC fight in Vancouver. Regier and Holtzman said they caught Ravinder Bassi urinating into a planter outside their building. They said when they confronted him and tried to take a photo, they were attacked. They also said the Bassis yelled gay slurs. But today, the judge found the surveillance video and testimony from 6 witnesses, including the victims, did not prove beyond a reasonable doubt that the Bassi brothers were the attackers. The judge pointed out that during the trial, Holtzman claimed to be a frequent user of medicinal marijuana. Holtzman has since died of an unrelated illness. The judge also highlighted that while an assault did indeed take place, that it was impossible to pinpoint wrongdoing by either Bassi.
Often people are very convinced about what they saw, but that doesn't necessarily mean that what they saw is accurate when it's put into some scrutiny.
Well, it's the difference between the judgment of the public and perhaps the media and the judgment of a court having heard evidence.
The Bassi brothers' legal troubles aren't over yet. Peter Regier has filed a civil lawsuit against them for about $25,000. Mira Baines, CBC News, Vancouver.